Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our training sessions. Um, this session is going to be about the seller's forms, and this is part 2. So if you have not seen part 1, please refer to that because there will be some information which would be required for you to understand from the seller's forms part 1 video, like understanding land titles, RPR, Dower issues, Dower certificate, and stuff like that. And you would need information from there to be put into these forms. So please refer to that one. So we will continue with our seller's forms part 2. Moving forward, the first form we are going to discuss is the exclusive seller's representation agreement. Now, please remember, we are a common law brokerage. Urban Realty is a common law brokerage. So when you go to download these forms from web forms, you will have to look for the common law listing forms. So if you look here, in the red here, it says for use in common law brokerages. This is the form which we would need. The designated brokerage form will not be accepted and will not be acceptable. It's the wrong form to use. Not much difference between both forms, but common law brokerage is the form which you will have to get filled. So this exclusive seller's representation agreement is also called listing agreement in short, but on web forms, it is, you will have to download it by this name, exclusive seller's representation agreement, or ESRA. We will start with the page 1. Keep in mind always that the contract, the seller's listing contract, listing agreement, is always between the brokerage and the seller. So when we start this form, the very first thing you will have to remember, especially the new agents, is that you have to have an agreement number on top. When you're downloading it from web forms, web form has the ability to put a number by itself. This number could be any number. You know, if you want to make it easy, sometimes using the date, for example, May or 05/17/2019 could be that number. The only thing you have to make sure is that the same number should be on all the pages which go further. So for all the listing agreement pages, the agreement number should be same. You cannot have different numbers on the different pages. Could be any number. You can generate one, or web forms will generate it for you. The other thing you have to remember when you are filling any kind of form is make sure all the spaces where the initials are required of the parties and all the places where the signatures are required and date is required are filled and are not left blank. Contract law says the contract is invalid if those fields are missing. So we start with the brokerage name. If you download it from web forms, some of the stuff will already be filled for you. One of these things will be the urban-realty.ca as the brokerage name. You put the seller's name. Please make sure you put the names exactly the way they appear on their IDs or of the land title. Section 1. Section 1, okay, before we go there, also a good tip to remember, bottom of each page has seller's initials and brokerage representative's initials. So you will be initialing all the bottom pages, and you will be signing the last pages where the signature is required. And as a realtor, you can witness the sellers and your own signatures as well. That is allowed. So now coming to section 1, which is dealing with the property information. So remember in land title, we were going over, and it had a legal description, and it also has a municipal address. So the municipal address goes here, the legal description, plan, block, and lot will go here. What is included with the house? Something which is not attached to the house, something which can be removed easily, but the seller is willing to give it along with the house. All that list of items go here. Blinds, you know, appliances, tool sheds, all those kind of things which are not attached but are part of this sale will be written here, which they are allowing. And something which is not going to be allowed will be put here, just to make things clear. For example, sometimes we assume in a house that maybe a chandelier is included, but that chandelier probably was a gift from someone, or it was too expensive and the sellers want to take it. So clearly mention here when you are doing the listing agreement that this is not included. What is included, what is not included. Legal descriptions. If it's a condominium, then you would be asked for a condominium property schedule, all those kind of things. But condominium exclusive seller representation agreement are a little different. You should be using those agreements for the condo. Pretty much the agreements are same, except that it has a section for different condominium documents which would be required on the listing agreement. The section 1.2 here is the price, list price. What do you want, what the seller wants to list it at, that goes here. If it's a used home, preoccupied home and stuff like that, GST is always included. If you're using this form for a new home, try to use what the builders give you as a agreement form, but if not, then they will mention that GST is on top of it. Those are a little different forms, but if it's a brand new home and GST is going to be applicable, then you just you cut this off and you say GST is there. 1.3 is the proposed possession date. When is the seller willing to give the possession of this house? You fill them sitting with the sellers. Section 2, again, is a repetition. If you remember the CRG we discussed in part 1 of this, kind of repeating it and emphasizing it. Hey, remember, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, that we went over this. This is where you sign it. And this agreement will start on such and such date and finish on such and such date. According to MLS rules, this should be minimum of 60 days. You cannot accept a contract for less than 60 days. So if it is starting May 1st, then till May, the whole June, the whole, so July 1st would be a good date to end. You can go as much as you want above, but not below 60 days. Section 3 is just an explanation of our responsibilities, shows what we will do for you, what they should expect from you, so that it's written down completely in black and white, so they don't start assuming things like you will be doing magic things and to sell their house and all those kind of things. So this basically lays it out. Again, the tip which I always give to the realtor is that print these forms before going to your clients and read them. Read every single line on this one, and if you have any questions, call us or get it sorted out before going to the clients. Continuing with it, we'll go to page number 2. A few MLS requirements are written on top. These are printed there so that it's again clear to them. Again, it says like minimum duration should be 60 days. They are open to terminate it or expire or cancel it before the 60 days are over, but the contract should not be less than 60 days. If you're going to do anything else, for example, if you want to do any open houses for them, or if you do not want to do any open houses for them and you want it written somewhere here, then you can use this section 4.2. Are you going to install a log box? Are you going to take pictures? All those kind of things you can put here and they can check mark it. And again, now it explains about your responsibilities, how you are going to help them. 5.2 specifically, during this agreement and dash days, usually 90 days is a good figure to put here. This basically says that after this agreement ends, the end date, which was on the previous page, 90 days after this agreement, if anyone comes back and says, okay, I looked at that house during those 60 days and I want to put an offer, then you are still eligible for commissions. The warranties and representations given by the sellers, and make sure whatever they are telling you, if it's a new home, there's a 5-year structural warranty or those kind of things. If they have some stuff installed in their house, alarm system and all those things, and warranties and representations out there, just make sure they understand what they are telling you and it is correct. You have to do your due diligence, ask them questions if you are ever confused or not sure about what they are saying. Don't go further before making sure you understand it. Section 7 deals with the dowry. If on your title, like Remember those 3 points. The first, if it's principal residence. Number 2, if it's only one name on the title, the dower might be an issue. So you ask them these questions: are you legally married? If yes, and then have your spouse or resided on the property? Yes, that means if there is a yes, they will have to do a dower. So the dower consent and acknowledgement form, which is on web forms, which we did cover in part 1 of seller's forms, you download that, fill the agreement number, municipal address, and give it to them. The rest should be blank. Explain them how and when a conflict could happen. How, if you would have explained them CRG properly, it should already be clear to them what kind of conflicts can occur. But this again emphasizes and goes over it again, dual agencies and how you will handle it. All those kind of things are written here. So please download and go over these forms before you take it to them. All those things are covered in Section 8. Section 9, many realtors fill this wrong, but we'll go over this. This is where your commissions are calculated and put here. So for example, let's take an example of 7% on the first 100,000 and 3% on the balance. So that is the total commission. That is what both sides together, all sides put together, will be charged on the sale of this house. So that becomes our fee. So 9.1 is the total commission. So if you are using 7% and 3%, then you will put 7% and 3%. If you're using any other figure, whatever, even if you're using a dollar amount, that it's going to be 10,000. So 10,000, if that is the total commission paid to both sides, it will go here. Now from that section 9.1, from that total commission, how much are you going to pay to the buyer's brokerage? That portion will go in 9.2. So for example, if in 9.1 you had put 7 and 3, then in 9.2 you will put 3.5 and 1.5, if that is what is your offering to the other side. And of course, both of them are plus GST. Read sections 9.3, 9.4, 9.5, 9.6, very self-explanatory. How the seller has to pay you commission, when do they pay commission, what's the maximum time limit after the sales is completed, and all those kind of things, and how the deposit is used for portion of commission. 9.7 is in a way for your protection, that if they change their mind before 60 days to cancel the listing or something like that, then this explains that they have to give you that request in writing. Plus, if you want to charge any expenses at that point, it should be clear, and you are going to put what reasonable expenses would be included on that 9.7 section. And 9.8, 9.9, 9.10, and 9.11 are land title acts and RPR related to all those kind of things. So please read them and explain them as well when you go, how the referral fee is paid, how the finder's fee is paid, what are the bonuses, gifts, what can they accept, what they cannot accept. So those kind of things, and should be very easy to explain. Number 10 completely deals with the privacy policy, privacy information, how you're going to collect it, how you're going to use it, what all are you acceptable to, and what you do not accept. So all those things are laid out very, very nicely. Go over it. They are very easy in plain language. Remember, these forms are made for general public as well to understand. So they are not complicated. But again, the key here is to print them before going to the clients, not going over these forms while sitting there with your clients. You should know them thoroughly. Basically, if a client comes back to you and wants you to explain, you should be able to. Of course, I mean, you might forget something, or sometimes, and if you want to call back and get some answers, that's fine. But it makes good business practice sense to know what you're doing, rather than going unprepared or just winging it. That's the section 10 about privacy policies and how it is working. Section 11, ongoing obligations. It's like you will be continually informing them about whatever is going on, indemnifications, how you can, and the brokerage is held indemnified against their lies or their unsureties or their claims or their legal actions and all those kind of things. Number 13, you should very carefully ask these questions to the seller. Talks about the defects in the property, visible or not so easily visible, the latent defects or the patent defects. So you ask these questions, and we always rely as real estate industry for a realtor to do their due diligence at section 13 to find out, so that later stage it might not become any issues. It's not just a matter of getting a yes or no from them, but try to dig a little bit deeper, try to find out if they say yes, they are aware of the defect, what is that defect, how did that happen, have they been disclosed, does it need to be disclosed. You can always call CREB and get their suggestion if that kind of a stigmatic defect should be mentioned or not. You can call us. There are all those sources, but you have to do your a little deeper due diligence here to find out about the defects and stuff. Section 14, if you want to put any additional terms, sometimes sellers have certain terms which they want to put on it. For example, sometimes, let's say, for example, if it's a half a duplex and both sides are owned by the seller and their term is that, okay, they'll only sell if both sides get an offer. So you might be listing them separately on the MLS, but you might get an offer on one only, but the term could be like that. Or if they have any request, basically how they want the property sold, those kind of things, if there are, can go on additional terms. The general practice is nothing. Most of the time, nothing will be there. How this agreement can be ended early, section 15 explains about it. You know how it can be done as a realtor. You have done it in real estate course as well, but this explains it to them because they should also be aware that they do have some rights if they want to cancel this agreement earlier, or what scenarios can make this agreement null and void. Section 16, other details about this agreement, how to make changes, how to do amendments, and they should all be in writing. Just again, making your clients aware of the situation about this agreement, how things work, and it's not up to us. It's the province of Alberta government's laws and all those kind of things. So it's not that we are dictating things. We are just putting them on a piece of paper here so the sellers are aware of it. Simply, section 17 is asking for their acknowledgement, just making sure that they are not just flying through with it with you. I also suggest to the realtors, like sometimes keep half an hour to an hour extra when you're going for your listing presentation or trying to get a listing signed, just in case if they have any answers, they might take you back and forth on the listing agreement, back and forth on different documents. So don't go under constraint of time so that you just push them to sign everything and acknowledge everything and just keep moving forward. Having a good relationship, explaining things at the correct time will save you a transaction, will save you a lot of extra time and money at the end. There are instances where people will turn around and call you and say, you never explained this, and I didn't know what I was signing. So on those kind of things, it's better, to take a little bit of extra time while you are going through this and making it properly. So now they are acknowledging it and signing it. The last page of this contract, it has 5 pages. So this one is basically a contact information. One thing which realtors most of the time skip is putting proper information here. They assume that the name is written on the first page, so why repeat it here? But no, we need the names properly written here, along with the address, phone number, email address at least. And if there is more than one seller, we need to repeat that for every seller. This form usually has place for only 2 sellers. In case if you have more sellers, just make some space here or get an amendment or another sheet of paper and put that information on that piece of paper. We will go over the amendment and extension and all those kind of documentation after this one. But don't think that if there are more than 2 sellers and if there's only 2 places here, you are just going to ignore the other people. No. Everyone on the land title, everyone entitled to sell this house or has a relevant interest in this house has to sign, has to initial each and every page. A tip I will give you here with the dower, most of the time, like I had suggested before too, get the dower consent printed out. Remember, the spouse on the dower who's not either on the title still has interest in this property. You know, they might not be on the land title, but if there is a dower and that dower consent form is being signed by the other spouse, that spouse's signatures and initials are required on this form as well as any other form related to the listing. You know, even including when they get an offer to purchase. Please remember this. Just getting a dower consent form does not mean that their liability of that spouse of signing these papers are gone. That consent form is only to make sure that the other spouse who's not listed on the land title is aware that this thing is going to be sold. So they have given their consent, but now they have to sign the listing agreements and purchase agreements and any amendments or extensions to those things. Unless and otherwise, keep this in mind, don't try to become a lawyer. Unless and otherwise there was a judgment passed and there was some sort of affidavit or something like that signed at the lawyer saying that the other spouse has released this spouse who's on the title from signing and all those kind of things, then you might not need those signatures unless you or your lawyer can absolutely confirm that there is certain kind of a document, affidavit, something showing that that kind of a relationship where signature is not required is existing. You have to take a copy of that. You make sure you understand or the lawyer understands, and they have given you a green light saying now you don't need it. In any other scenario under dower, the other spouse who's not on the title will be signing all the documents. So in a nutshell, this is what the exclusive seller's representation agreement or a listing agreement is. Whenever you want to make any changes, let's say you listed the house at 200,000, it's been a month, now the sellers want to change the price, or you have shown them that market has slowed down, maybe 190 will work better, 185 might work better, they agree to it. In real estate transactions, nothing in verbal has any significance. Everything should be in writing. So there are these forms which are already prepared for you so that it makes it easy. What you have to make sure you understand here is that, again, on top right, the agreement number should be there. It should be same as your listing agreement. So it becomes part of that whole package. Always use that agreement number so that in case if you have more than one client going on at the same time, and if these documents get you get confused with the documents which belongs to which, so at least you can go ahead with the agreement number and put them all together. Of course, you have to put the listing number, and it's amazing number of extensions or amendments we receive in the office where either the listing number is missing or the municipal address is missing, or both are missing. This is every single line which has been printed here has a meaning, has a responsibility for you to fill it, and it helps you too to keep everything together. So once the agreement number has gone, every seller's name which is on the title or who has signed the listing agreement has to go here. Every single seller's. You cannot take less number of sellers and say, okay, this extension, this amendment or extension is valid. It's not, because every single person's name you put here has to sign at the bottom to make sure that everyone is on the same page, everyone is aware what's going on if the listing has been changed for a certain price or any other thing. So after those seller names, your listing number, this is the MLS number. It has to go here, mandatory. Then this could be the repetition here. Don't worry about it. This was your listing agreement number. That's fine. So now you know this becomes part of that listing agreement, and it's here as well. Municipal address, this makes sure that the MLS number you have put is belonging to this municipal address. You know, if you have more than one listing going on, these both places play a major role, if you fill them correctly, of avoiding any mistakes in the future, so that you don't go on MLS and change the price or anything else on a different address. So make sure MLS number and the municipal address is written there. If the same form is used for extension of the listing or for any amendments needed for the listing. So remember how we started, we said we need minimum 60 days for the contract. No, so let's say now 60 days have passed, and now you need to extend that listing. So you don't have to get everything signed again. The trick here is you cannot get an extension signed after it has expired. The extension should have been, so if your listing is expiring on May 30th, you should get an extension signed and change the MLS extension date before May 30th. If you miss that, you will have to relist the property. In certain cases, like if it was very, very close, so if it expired today and tomorrow you got it signed, in some cases, help desk at CREB has been able to extend it for you. Otherwise, you will have to get everything signed again, listing agreement, and all those things would be needed signed again. And when you put it on MLS, you will be charged again for the MLS fee. If you get the extension done at the proper time and you go log into your MLS system and change the dates according to this before the actual expiry date, you will be fine. It will just become a continuation. So if you're going to extend the listing, this amendment form is also used as an extension. So you will change that the end date of exclusive agreement, which was this or whatever was on this agreement, is being amended to such and such time and such date. So if it was extended, let's say from May 30th originally to June 30th, then you would put, this is the agreement number, the possession date, or the listing date on that one has been extended to 11:59 p.m. on June 30th. You know, so from May 30th to June 30th. If you're doing any price change, so as long as you have filled all of this above, you know that this is being applied to this MLS number and this municipality address. You know what the original price was. You put the new price here, and you change. You log into the system and you change that price, whatever is agreed here. Any other amendments, if you need done, let's say the seller had a change of mind, now they don't want to include this, or first they said they don't want to include this and now they want to include this, or any other minor changes which are happening here, you will be using those. So one thing I'd like to mention, let me take you back. For example, if you are changing, for example, they had a change of heart. Now they said instead of your commission only, now they will pay commission and bonus. So you will be changing 9.1 and 9.2. So when you go back here, you would say delete 9.1, delete 9.2, and then insert 9.1 and explain what you want in the new 9.1, and insert 9.2 and explain what you want in 9.2. So you can use delete and add or insert as an amendment. So those kind of changes will go here in the amendment. And of course, you will get every single seller to sign, and you can witness them. And when you did these changes, that time and date goes in here, and they will initial it saying that they have received a copy of the amendment. Only once you have got everyone's signature, either this form or the listing agreement. Once you have the signatures, only then you go log into the MLS system and do those changes. Or once you have this whole thing signed, only then you log into the MLS and put this listing on. Do not get into the habit, or do not get pushed around by sellers saying, you know what, there are supposed to be 2 sellers, but only 1 is available. Let me sign it today, at least put it on the MLS, and then we'll get the other person's signature. No, you will be breaking the laws of MLS there. Plus, you're putting yourself at risk, because this offer is not going to be valid, because that second person can pop up anytime and blame you, maybe even sue you, saying that how come you put it on MLS with only 1 person when there are 2 names on the land title and stuff. So do not put this on MLS, or do not make any changes unless all the sellers have signed it, initialed it, and agreed to it. You know, there are lots of situations where problems pop up, and they happen. The last form, which is again a common form between any transaction, this is, you know, this is called trade record sheet. This is like a summary sheet. You know, you can see that we have covered it in buyer's course as well. This is needed for every real estate transaction which is going to be completed. Very fairly simple. All it does is it puts the summary of your full transaction on it, your MLS number, possession date, property address, sale price, what is the sale date, how much was the deposit, initial or additional, what were the conditions, what were the dates of conditions, the seller's information, including the seller's realtor, seller's brokerage, seller's lawyer, their phone numbers and fax numbers. We need this. It is a mandatory form, and we need this with complete information. Don't think that you can just half fill it because the information is on the forms anyhow. No, this is your responsibility to fill it. You can take your time, like it does not have to accompany right in the beginning. This will mostly happen when some transaction has been negotiated, accepted, firmed. You know, once it's firmed, you probably will have all the information required on this. If you have the commissions calculated in percentage or dollar, if you have done any amendments, you know, those will reflect here in the commission. So all those kind of things. This is a very important document. Don't think this is an in-house document. It's not an internal brokerage document. This is a document, a requirement by the legislation, the self-regulated regulated industry of real estate. You know, when RECA audits, or when you know, the board and stuff wants to look at it, this piece of information here is one of the very essential documents needed. So trade record sheet, please make sure you completely fully complete this, you know, and the buyer, same as buyer's information. If you need more pages, you can take more pages. The last section here, if you want to pay a referral commission to someone else, to a third party, then you provide their information here. What's their name, what's their address, what's their contact number, and how much of the portion of your commission you want with GST. So whether you are a listing commission or you're a selling commission, from wherever it is being, so you have to calculate this, you know, and then send it to us, and we will do the invoicing, or to the lawyers, conveyancing, and all those things according to this sheet. So this is another layer of confirmation of that all the information which was put by you on different forms confirms with this form. And most of the time, because this is the last form you will be filling, if any changes or if any additions have been done, they might reflect here, including, you know, if the clients have decided on which lawyer they would be using. So all those things put together will become your seller's forms. That was it. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.